The song was originally conceived during the recording sessions for the Bad album in 1987, a period when Michael Jackson was exploring new musical directions while building on the extraordinary success of Thriller. During those years, many ideas were written, recorded, reshaped, and sometimes placed aside. Not every composition found its place on the final album. Some remained unfinished, waiting quietly for another moment when they could be viewed with fresh perspective. This song was one of those creative ideas. Although its earliest foundations reached back to the Bad era, it would take several more years before it truly became the work that listeners would eventually hear. By the time work began on the History album in 1994 and 1995, Michael Jackson had experienced a period of significant personal and professional change. His musical style had continued to evolve, and the themes he wanted to express had become more reflective and more deeply connected to the events surrounding his life. The History sessions became an opportunity not only to create new music but also to revisit earlier ideas that still seemed meaningful. Rather than simply completing an old recording, Jackson approached these unfinished songs with the understanding that time had changed both the artist and the message. This process was not unusual for him. Throughout his career, he maintained extensive archives of demos, melodies, lyrical sketches, and instrumental ideas. Some songs were completed quickly because everything seemed to fit together naturally. Others required years before they found the right arrangement or emotional context. For Michael Jackson, a song was rarely considered finished until it fully expressed the feeling he wanted to communicate. That patience became one of the defining characteristics of his creative process. During the History sessions, the earlier concept gradually transformed into a more complete musical statement. New lyrics were written, melodies were refined, and the production gained greater depth. Advances in recording technology also allowed for a richer sound than what had been possible during the late 1980s. Every layer of instrumentation could be carefully balanced, giving the song a wider emotional range while preserving the core idea that had inspired it years before. One of the remarkable aspects of Michael Jackson's work was his attention to detail. He often began with simple vocal demonstrations, using his voice to imitate drums, bass lines, strings, and rhythmic accents. These recordings served as guides for musicians and producers. Even before instruments were added, the structure of the song already existed clearly in his imagination. Listening to his early demos reveals how complete many of his musical ideas were from the very beginning. The production process became less about discovering the song and more about translating the sound he already heard in his mind into a finished recording. As the sessions continued, collaboration played an important role. Michael Jackson worked closely with trusted producers, engineers, arrangers, and musicians who understood his creative language. These collaborators helped shape the technical aspects of the recording while respecting his artistic vision. Discussions often focused on small details, such as the placement of a drum hit, the texture of a keyboard sound, or the emotional color of a vocal harmony. These choices might seem minor when considered individually, yet together they created the distinctive atmosphere that listeners recognized in his music. The recording environment itself encouraged experimentation. Ideas could be tested, revised, or completely replaced if they did not serve the emotional purpose of the song. Michael Jackson was known for recording multiple vocal takes, each with subtle differences in tone and expression. Rather than searching only for technical perfection, he looked for performances that carried genuine feeling. Sometimes the most effective vocal line was not the cleanest one but the one that conveyed sincerity and emotional truth. The years separating the Bad sessions from the History sessions also brought changes in Michael Jackson's perspective as a songwriter. Earlier works often reflected youthful energy, ambition, and optimism, while later recordings increasingly explored themes of resilience, reflection, compassion, and personal responsibility. Revisiting an older composition allowed these newer experiences to shape its final form. Instead of preserving the song exactly as it had originally been imagined, Jackson allowed it to grow alongside his own artistic development. This approach highlights an important aspect of creative work. Ideas are not fixed at the moment they first appear. They continue to evolve as the creator gains new experiences and deeper understanding. A melody written in one stage of life may carry different meaning years later. A lyric that once seemed incomplete may suddenly become clear because of events that occurred long after it was first written. In this sense, time itself became an active participant in the creation of the song. The production style of the mid-1990s also differed noticeably from that of the late 1980s. Recording equipment had become more sophisticated, digital editing offered greater flexibility, and producers could combine electronic and acoustic elements with increasing precision. Michael Jackson embraced these technological advances without allowing them to overshadow the human qualities of the performance. The warmth of the vocals remained central, supported rather than replaced by technical innovation. Listening carefully, one can often hear the balance between complexity and simplicity in his recordings. The arrangements may contain many layers, yet each element has room to breathe. Percussion establishes movement without becoming overwhelming. Harmonic textures provide richness while leaving space for the lead vocal. Background voices reinforce emotional moments without distracting from the central message. Achieving this balance required countless hours of careful listening and refinement. Michael Jackson's commitment to excellence extended beyond music alone. He paid close attention to the emotional journey created by each song. He considered how one verse led naturally into the next, how a chorus should feel both familiar and fresh when repeated, and how the ending should leave the listener with a lasting impression. These structural decisions reflected his understanding that songs are experiences unfolding over time rather than collections of separate musical ideas. Another defining feature of his work was his ability to combine accessibility with depth. On the surface, listeners could enjoy memorable melodies, strong rhythms, and polished production. Beneath those qualities often lay themes inviting reflection about relationships, personal growth, social concerns, or inner strength. Different listeners could connect with the same song in different ways depending on their own experiences. This openness helped his music remain meaningful across cultures and generations. The History album itself represented a particularly reflective period in Michael Jackson's career. It brought together songs addressing personal emotions alongside broader observations about the world. Within this creative environment, older compositions gained new significance because they could be understood through the lens of everything that had happened since they were first conceived. The result was not simply a collection of recordings but a musical portrait of an artist responding thoughtfully to the passage of time. Many artists write more songs than eventually appear on their albums. Recording sessions often produce dozens of unfinished ideas, alternate versions, and experimental pieces. Michael Jackson was no exception. His archives demonstrated extraordinary productivity, revealing how many creative possibilities existed beyond the music released during his lifetime. Some songs remained incomplete because they no longer matched the direction of a project. Others simply required more development than the available schedule allowed. Returning to an unfinished composition demands careful judgment. The artist must decide which original qualities deserve preservation and which should change. Altering too much